Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel for today's video. I wanted to talk to you about how the narcissist brings out all of your idiosyncrasies and harps on you to where you just start living in such negativity that you feel like everything in your life becomes inferior. It just seems as if most of the time when you will meet somebody, you will talk them up, you'll talk to them and say a lot of nice things because you mean it. That's why you're with them. That's why you wanted to see them. That's why you wanted to date them. That's why you were attracted to them. You like their mannerisms, their ways about them, the way they laughed, the way they smiled. How if a woman liked a man, it would be like because the way that you were handy with your work. Maybe you're a good carpenter or something. And for a woman, it's like, wow, I mean, like, not to get cliche or anything, but it's like, I don't know, man, there's nothing like the way a woman folds clothes, man. It's just so proper. And it's almost like, if you've had a good woman, it's almost like the clothes look like they came out of the department store when they're done being folded. Or they've been almost iron pressed, you know what I mean? And they haven't been. And it's just, these are things that a healthy relationship would promote, it's nice things and you appreciate them. It's not necessarily like that's got to be a role for a woman or it's got to be a role for a man. A guy can cook great and a woman can, paint a house with you, and be a better painter. I don't know. And just the way they care for you, the way they look out for you. If somebody was to say something and they're amongst other people, if somebody said something rude about you and you're not there, well, they're going to make sure that they straighten that individual out. That's called backing somebody up. And these are just things that a narcissist just doesn't do. They are usually the one that's your worst enemy out there with their friends. They're usually talking horrible behind your back, saying the worst things. They're saying everything that inside them they feel like is what they're demolishing you with. But on the outside, they're promoting themselves as if they are what they see from the experience of you. Because they're always trying to become you as they turn you into them. It's like the whole narrative is such a twisted flip, and then you wonder why you're ruminating all the time when you're with the narcissist or you're away from them, whatever. Just having to deal with, there's a bee's nest somewhere, having to deal with this narcissistic type relationship, this negativity all the time. They make you doubt yourself so much. They hit you with all of these idiosyncrasies that they create and blame on you. You're so crappy because you did this, or you're no good because you did that. And then you'll hear about this stuff later down the road. And the weird thing is there's actual times, like when you're not with them, say you ended a cycle with them and you broke it up. Well, then a lot of times they'll be talking good about you because why? They don't have you and they want to get you back. So then they'll start promoting an agenda that makes it seem as though they're sad and they got to have you and they miss you and they need you and they're maybe had some crocodile tears or something, And then the moment that you would go back, and you might as well just call it another cycle. Maybe you didn't think so because you thought they'd change, but they didn't change. And every time it's this kind of stuff. You think in humanity, for instance, we change. We can make change. We can make good change because it takes heart and love to make change. And that is all encapsulated in those 9 fruits of the spirit and the spirit man and your inside voice and your intuition. The good things, tools. A lot of those are tools. And then your innate spirit's not a tool. It's your being. And when you get into the narcissist, for them to have sacrificed that, and all of those tools The 9 fruits of the spirit and your intuition and inside voice, they have the tools. They think the tools are their innate spirit. That's the thing. And then they think the spirit, that's the negative energy that has taken over in the vacuum, wherever their innate spirit or intuition or inside voice all culminated. They think that's probably their intuition. You see? And that thing's always talking to them. It's either telling them they're crappy and giving them an inferiority complex, or telling them they're grand and you're crappy. You see? And it's always like the opposing opposite. And that's why I like to talk a lot on unequally yoking, because there's nothing more unequally yoked once you get past love bombing than a narcissist and an empath. It's their two sides of the spectrum. And they only meet in the middle for two different things. One, they're faking by love bombing, and infatuated. Maybe they're not faking to some degree. They do know what they're doing. They do know how their cycles run, but maybe they do live off the infatuation, because again, that would be some sort of a form of lust, not love, really, at the end of the day. It doesn't last, you see. What makes things last in a relationship is having the tools of the 9 fruits of the spirit. And without the 9 fruits of the spirit and your innate self, true self, or your inside voice and intuition, you're talking about they may have tools outside of them sacrificing now first their innate spirit. So now they have just a false self, or this dark energy is now in the innate spirit position. And of course, that's now going to become their intuition or inside voice, because that's where it comes from. And they're stripped of the 9 fruits of the spirit, you see? So they're sitting in their mind, will, and emotions, which is your ego, if you do not have their innate spirit. So they have some of the tools, but again, all of the tools are going to be run by this dark energy. But they think that the dark energy is just their intuition and inside voice, but what they probably don't know is it's actually sitting and housed in their innate spirit position, where your true self should be, but it doesn't exist anymore because you sacrificed it. That's a big problem. And now they have none of the 9 fruits of the spirit, and they think their mind, their will, and their emotions is their innate true self. You see where the problem lies? Again, that's all stuff that deals with the existential. That's why they're always looking at existential, because the mind, will, and emotions is kind of mainly looking out here. If it's not connected to the root spirit man, your inside true self, your inner innate spirit, then it's rooted to that dark energy. And the dark energy is controlling the mind, will, and the emotions. And of course, you got the meat suit, the flesh. And if you don't have your innate spirit, and you definitely don't have the Holy Ghost, because the Holy Ghost empowers the innate spirit. So you would need this to get saved. So you don't have the Holy Ghost, that's knocked out. You don't have your innate true self because you sacrificed it for this dark energy. And you do have your mind, will, and emotions and your meat suit, right? But those tools you do have, but they're corrupted now. Because your mind, will, and emotions now is what they think is their true self, but it's not. It's the mask. And the mask is now the mind, will, and emotions, because if it's not connected to the root innate spirit, it's now connected to the dark energy. So the dark energy acts not really as a true innate spirit. More or less, it acts, well, it does act like that, but it more or less would probably act as the intuition inside voice. So they think they're getting they're either getting negative thoughts and they feel bad about themselves, and so they got to destroy others, because it's always coming from out here now. Because if you don't have an innate spirit, you're not going to go look it in. If you have dark energy running the innate spirit, you're never going to look inside, because you're going to see how horrible it is. And as fearful as they are, they're going to always push out. That's why they're always pushing out. That's why they're almost like outside the body, their spirit. And any advice they're going to get is from a dark energy. The dark energy is always going to tell them how to sabotage and destroy that person, because they're a person of light. If they're with a person of light, they're going to want to destroy it. But they're going to do it in subtle ways to still feed off it, because it's going to give them the best food. It's like they hate, like if you're a star or a sun, right? And you're bright like a star or a sun, and you have dark energy running you because it's in the innate spirit, that's where your star or your sun should be coming from. But it's not there. Now you have dark energy there. They're attracted to it, because they see fuel. They see what they can get with it. It's kind of like a pot of gold, or it's like a huge tank of gas, you know? And they know if they can get a hold of that, I mean, they could go for 500 miles. Instead, if they have another narcissist or somebody that's not heavily empathic, then they might get 30 miles out of them. But if they get this individual, they can get 500 miles out of this one before they can end the cycle. And that's not only what they're going to get. They're going to be fueled. They're going to be powered up, not just fueled for the 500 miles, but they're going to be tip-top highest energy they've ever had glowing, because they're going to take all of what you have and dump everything into you. That's theirs. It's almost like every week you take out the garbage bin and the garbage truck picks it up and you bring it back in, right? And then you fill it up again. That's the stuff you don't want. That's like leftover crap. Okay? Well, they're going out every day, destroying individuals, lying, cheating, stealing, siphoning, creating mayhem and third-party situations, triangulations, deceiving, distorting, perverting, all of those things, right? And what they're doing is they're a big garbage bin. It's like the garbage bin at your house that's been sitting around for a week waiting to go out to the street. Well, you may be a pot of gold, but what they do is they take all your gold, or if you're a big tank of fuel, the best fuel they've ever seen in their life, they're going to take all the fuel out of the tank, they're going to take all the gold, and they're going to hoard it. And then all of the empty cans of soda that they drank, all of the wrappers from the candy bars they ate, all of the like packaging from all the meals they've eaten for the whole week, all of the just crap stuff they've swept off the floor in the kitchen. Well, they emptied the vacuum out, all of the lint and crap that it picked up. Well, they take all your gold and the best fuel that they've ever seen, 105 octane, 108 octane, and they take all that and they hoard it. And then they throw into you all these empty cans, bottles, wrappers, and stinky leftover from meals and crap and stuff they swept off the floor and emptied out of the vacuum, and they throw it into you. And then they're like, look at you. Look how bad you are. You're a piece of crap. I gotta go. And that's what every cycle with a narcissist looks like. And that's why you don't want the narcissist, because they will convince you of that the longer that you're with them. And because you're in covenant, contract, and consent, you are willingly agreeing to it. And I know it's harder than the way I'm putting it. There's attachments, there's corded in, there's subliminal stuff, and there's demonic witchcraft that comes along with it. So, I understand. I'm one of y'all. I've been through it 100 times with all these different cycles and things. So I love y'all, but I want you to understand that this is what it turns into, and this is what they make you and mold you into. And the longer you're with them, the harder it is to get away. So have a great day. Glow up. Shine, baby, shine. Because this is your day, y'all. It ain't their day. They never have a day. Their days are full of corruption, lust, no love, perverting everything, and mind games and manipulation. We have good days. So have a good day today. I love y'all. Till next time. Soul Job. Peace. We out.
Hi.